Welcome to the second day of HIMSS. I'm here by my esteemed friend and colleague, David Schweppe, who I greatly admire and learn from every day. As you know, he headed the analytics initiative at Kaiser Permanente for a long time. We're very fortunate to have him as our Chief Analytics Officer. So, David, how has HIMSS been so far? What's the vibe?
The vibe is really busy this year. I'm seeing a lot more people walking around that aren't vendors. A lot of the blue lines are the people that are coming out to buy and look. A lot of interest in things. I think the vibe too is around ChatGPT or GTP is everywhere, and learning that that's kind of an underpinning with a lot of the major vendors here, including ourselves, looking at what that might be and listening to them talk about what the boundaries are and what might be the opportunities. Just listened to a couple of presentations across the hall over here. People are trying to figure out how to put that into their code streams to see if they can actually support their customers. And I don't think we have the answer yet, but it's exciting to see that maybe this HIMSS might be a tipping point in healthcare for being able to use that kind of technology.
Exactly. I was very intrigued by this interview that Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google, did yesterday. And he's talking about Bard coming out, right? So I see that as an arms race between Microsoft and Google, and obviously Salesforce and everyone else will jump in. Happily, you are leading our effort there. But his message was kind of ominous. It's like society is better be prepared for the changes, the disruptive changes that AI will unleash, right? So from our perspective, you obviously lead our data science efforts. What are some of the exciting areas and use cases where you think the predictive analytics within our products is going to differentiate us and drive value?
Well, I think some of the exciting things we've got going on is really thinking about bringing together a lot of disparate models. We've got a lot of models around forecasting, anomaly detection, novelty detection, decision trees, neural networks. And a lot of that stuff's not new tech. A lot of it's getting it in the right order to create an ensemble model to really build an end-to-end decision process. So thinking about being able to ask a question, what's the most expensive item of diagnostics that I have in my organization, then understanding what are the drivers of that and what proportions of those drivers are happening, and then the most important part, doing a what-if analysis and providing how do I change the levers, how do I influence those decision makers and actually be able to play with that. So really exciting work that we're doing around that kind of thing to really help people everybody does descriptive and diagnostic AI, what happened and what do we know about it. Predictive analytics is pretty much the common term, around being able to say what happens in the future. We really want to be prescriptive. What do we want to do? How do we impact? How do we make change? And a lot of our analytics, I like AI as being augmented intelligence, not artificial. It's not artificial. It's still human choice, human drive. So really embedding that into our tools so that our end users actually can get the most value out of that decision-making process and really finding those actionable insights.
Awesome. Now, one of the areas which is, of course, the first thing that most people will think of once one talks about augmented analytics or predictive analytics is value-based care, population risk stratification, identifying care gaps. And I know that's one of the use cases you're working on. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, we're trying to even about benchmarking. I think, to answer your question a different way, Andy, how do I compare to where I was and where I'm going, and then understanding, we can use the term return on investment or value on investment, but really understanding where is that gray area between where I should be and where I am, or where I am and where I become better, and really understanding the return on that, because these investments for these vendors is not cheap. Yeah. This is a major investment in work and trying to get our organizations to adopt, understand where that change happens, and provide the analytics to do that. I think in that piece, we're really trying to get to a point where people are able to see the value they're deriving from the tool and deriving from their adoption of the tool. Just had a conversation out here in the audience with some of our people looking at our tools today, and one thing that keeps coming up in conversation is, well, how easy is this tool to use? Yeah. How do I adopt it? And we've done demos here, it's really exciting to see their eyes light up and say, oh, I can see that high level, but I can also see down to the detail of what's driving that data. Because to answer your question again in a different way, is if I don't trust the data, I can't do anything with the data. And we joke all the time when we're talking with our provider customers and they're comparing each other. What's the first thing one of our clinician partners says? They say, well, I don't trust your data because my patients are more risk than my partners over here. And so really creating that normalized playing field in our information strategy here is really a key strategy for us also in our analytics.
Digressing slightly and coming back to what we started with, you and I are both doing courses on AI at MIT. So generative AI, ChatGPT, GPT-4, right? As you've wandered around HIMSS, are there any exciting use cases that you've seen? And also one of the big things we're not talking about is the AI ethics and potential downsides of the technology, right? People are completely oblivious to it and engaged in this arms race, right? What are your thoughts around some of that?
Ethics is an interesting concept. The data we're training our AI models on has built-in bias, SDOH bias, health equity bias, ability to pay bias, access bias. And so if we're training models on that old data, our old models, that's what they learn from. And I think ChatGPT or GTP or LLM or whatever we're going to call it this week, I've heard multiple names for it, but I think the ethics is going to be a big piece around that. How do we actually engage with our customers, help them understand what the right data is? Because we are a social media driven society now, and people believe what's on the internet. And I think what I'm seeing here in the halls here are trying to figure out what are the guardrails, what are the rules, how do you interact? We all have worked with chatbots. GTP is a chatbot on advanced overload. And like I said earlier in our conversation here, it's a tipping point. We're going to have, these things can lie to you. And Andy and I have been talking about these MIT classes we're taking, which are exciting classes. I give them a lot of kudos. But what I think I find from the program is the people in other fields also working through this concept and realizing that we don't know what we don't know. And these tools can provide a lot of great information, but they can also provide a lot of bad information. And we need to be aware that us as consumers of that information need to make logical decisions and good choices. And I think in the halls around here at HIMSS right now, we're seeing a lot of conversations, and all of the big vendors, the large ones like you mentioned, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, all have solutions. Salesforce has one as well, went to one of their presentations. But I'm seeing even in the startups down the hall here, there are some that actually that's their premise. And so it's going to be a fun journey, I think. I've been through this for 35 years now, and there are a few seminal points along that journey, and I think we're just starting to see a new one in our field.
Awesome. Thank you, Dave. Always fun talking to you. So signing off from HIMSS, and hope you enjoy the show. Thank you so much.